same letter. You can call me KK. And our driver's name is Schumacher. Actually Schener, but we can call him Schumacher. You know, F1 pilot.
Michael Schumacher.
Today we are doing a grand tour together. In our itinerary we will see Love Valley, it's a viewpoint. Taşaba Fevri Chimneys, it's also named as Monks Valley. We will visit those that are interested in rock formations and they like something. We will see the pottery art, the historical pottery art, Uçhisar Castle viewpoint, and we will watch a fashion show, then we will drop it back to our hotels. I guess it will be around 4:30, depending on our tempo and the traffic at visit points. At the first point, I will give you some information about the nature of physical formation of Cappadocia. Then you will have some free time. Holy mission must be completed, you know, especially for ladies, Instagram pictures. That's why I will give some information, then you will have some free time. And it goes on like this over there. Okay, let's start our story from the beginning. Maybe you have Googled. Do you know the meaning of Cappadocia? What does Cappadocia mean?
Horses.
Something about horses. Very close, yes. You are very lucky because I know. I will tell you. Cappadocia means the land of beautiful horses. Once upon a time, I'm talking about BC 1 to 300 period, there were a lot of wild and beautiful horses in countryside. That's why this region was named as Katpatuka originally, and it comes from old Persian language. But nowadays, as you know, we call Cappadocia, which means the land of beautiful horses. If you Google Cappadocia, you can't find a city, town, or a village. It's the name of a very, very large region in central Turkey. Right in the middle, we have Nevşehir city, and there are 5 more cities surrounding Nevşehir. All these 6 cities are named as Cappadocia regionally. But as a touristic meaning, Cappadocia means Göreme, the heart of, center of Cappadocia. Çavuşin, Ortahisar, Uçhisar, Avanos, Urgut, Kaymaklı, Derinköy, town and village of Nevşehir city are known as touristic Cappadocia. And once upon a time, especially the touristic part was completely flat. I'm talking about more than 40 million years ago. And there were some small volcanic formations and lava used to come out through these formations. Over the time, lava covered all the surface of Cappadocia, and these formations, volcanic formations, disappeared because of being covered by lava. And we have 4 big volcanoes around us. By the way, we have no more active volcanoes. You are safe, no worries. First one is, I wish to show you, in Kayseri city, over there, 85 kilometers away. Weather is a little bit cloudy, otherwise we could see the mountain, which is 3,917, approximately 4,000 meters tall. 2 more on the west, Hasan and Melendez mountains, 1 more on the south, Gölcük. We have 4 volcanoes. It's known that they started to erupt approximately 15 million years ago. And the ash of the volcanoes came over here and settled and covered the surface of Cappadocia as theirs. You can imagine that from the top of that flat hill to top of any other around us, even here, was completely covered by volcanic ash, which turned into a soft rock formation over the time. This volcanic ash is very interesting. It is so light that it can fly hundreds of kilometers taking the wind, but after settling, when it touches the oxygen and a little amount of water, it turns into a rock formation over the time. Surface of Cappadocia was covered by volcanic ash, which turned into a rock formation over the time. If you look over here, you will see some interesting and conic formations and some valleys in Cappadocia region. They are all the result of erosion. Surface was covered by volcanic ash, which turned into a rock formation. Especially rivers, small melting waters, rain waters shaped the surface of Cappadocia. All these kind of valleys and interesting formations are the result of erosion, and main effect was water, ladies and gentlemen. 90% water effect, max 10% wind effect. Wind blows and sweeps the surface up to down, that's it. And this formation, rock formation, is so soft that people dug a lot of caves to live inside as shelter. They dug a lot of caves as stall, as storage and winery. In here we have hard winter conditions. From November to end of March, anytime you can see snow from. For example, in my childhood, snow, we had much more snow. Snow used to cover the cars, 1.5, 2 meters. But nowadays, because of global warming, we see less snow. And for example, last winter, we saw snow 5 or 6 times and it was max 20, 25 centimeters. This is the result of global warming. We need to pay attention, by the way. Social message. Okay, soil, you can't make bricks, soil bricks. And you can't find so many stone pieces in here. That's why people, it was an obligation. They dug a lot of rooms to live inside, to keep their animals in a closed area in hard winter conditions, to store some food because they were mostly farmers. Otherwise, they could not survive. They had to store some food for winter, especially wheat, corn, lentil, dried fruits and dried vegetables, whatever they can cultivate outside. And also, you can see a lot of wineries in Cappadocia. Cappadocian people were alcoholics, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, no. Wine has an economic importance in Cappadocian people's life. Grape farming and winemaking has history more than 5,000 years in Cappadocia. Farmers were making the wine. Local traders were buying wine from the farmers and they used to sell to the foreigner traders who were coming to Cappadocia using historical Silk Road. Before the development of Silk Road, traders were coming from Egypt using the way Lebanon, Syria, and they used to come to Cappadocia region for marketing. The traders coming from Egypt were not coming right here. They were coming to Kayseri city because there was a trading center there, Kanishkarum, in Kultepe town. Traders were coming to Kanishkarum. But the others coming from Asia mostly, using historical Silk Road, they used to pass through this region and they were selling something and buying something all the way from the east part of Turkey to west to Mediterranean coast. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I guess for now it's enough. By the way, nowadays we have tourism industry, you know. We have tourism industry for 65 years approximately. Last 25 years, it's really very active, very developed, depending on clubs, balloon riding, and also depending on social media. Before the development of tourism industry, local people were again farmers. They used to farm wheat, corn, lentil, grapes, and also potatoes as well. Cappadocia is #1 at potato farming because our soil is volcanic, you know. That's why it's rich as minerals. What we farm here is mostly high quality. And also we farm in Cappadocia as fruit, I mean, apricots, almonds, apples, plum, and on the south parts of Cappadocia, strawberries and cherries as well. Okay, now that's enough for beginning. It's now 10:10. 10, how much? probably this region was given to one of Ottoman Pasha. That's why here is named as Pasha Ba. Pasha Ba. Pasha means like Lord. Ba means vineyard, grape garden. So here is also known as Monk's Valley, because these kind of places are important for Cappadocian Christian history. But we will talk about Monk's life here. Let's start our story from the beginning of Monk's life. In 390, a man was born in Aleppo, Syria geography, and he stayed on the top of a column which looks like a rock formation, like this one. He stayed on the top of the rock formation, which looks like a column, around 15 years. And he was coming down just for washroom needs and for food. He was coming down. The people living around him were leaving some food and drinks to the bottom of the column. He was coming down, having his food and going up to top of the stone again. It was a ritual, meditation for him. He was trying to be close to God. It was a seclusion, hermitage, ladies and gentlemen. He was doing rituals by himself. It was a self-discipline, actually. After his death, he became a saint, and his name is Simon or Simeon, Saint Simon. And after his death, he had a lot of followers who used to stay on the top of rock formations for hermitage. And some followers of him came to Cappadocia geography in 5th century, and they told stories about Saint Simon. And some Cappadocian Christians, not all of course, a little number of them, stayed in the caves for hermitage. But this time they don't stay on the top of stones, because in here we have hard winter conditions, you know, our summer season is very short. That's why they choose to stay in the caves. They were doing their rituals there, and again the same farmers were preparing something, and they were leaving their food in front of their caves. For example, this is a very nice sample. It's like a 3 floors apartment. First floor was a ritual room for a monk. All these stuff are completely for one monk for hermitage. There was a ritual room. He was doing rituals there, praying and thinking about God, Jesus, universe, everything, to become a hard Christian. He was doing rituals in the first floor. When he needs to take time, he was going up to second floor, living room. And on the third floor, there is a very small and uncomfortable bedroom. This is used for a hermitage. Over the time, Christian people enlarged the hermitage cell, and it turned into a chapel. And they enlarged a little more, and it became a church. It is called Saint Simon Church. It's not open for touristic visits, but we can see from outside at
This
least.
actual one?
Yeah, this one. Now we will walk the other side. I want to talk in the shade. That's why this one.
Yeah. I thought just like an example, like say.
No.
but this
Inside.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go to this side. I will show you. Bu anlatımı bitirince ben size yavaş yavaş yürürken Türkçe'de anlatayım, olur mu? It was broken and flat. We can understand from this flat surface. Because of climate effects, we have winter. In winter, we have snowfall. When the snow melts in the day period, water goes down to cracks, and in the night it freezes. When it repeats it several times, stone will be broken. We can see inner part of second floor. And this is the couple. They are looking into the church. The monk was doing the church there, and he was walking around the rock formation. We used to pass through this short tunnel, and he was coming to the entry for second floor. Some close up, you will see something very interesting here. Just a few seconds, you will see that there are 7 or 8 steps, and rest of the way there are no more steps. It's like a vertical ventilation shaft. Probably there was a river, because the longest river of Turkey, the Red River, passed through Avanos town. Probably 100,000 years ago, it used to pass through this region. By the way, Red River is 1,355 kilometers long, and it passed through Avanos. And Avanos is famous for pottery art. You know, they used to pick the soil or mud from the old banks of Red River. It's the same nowadays. They pick the mud from old banks of Red River. Red clay is used mostly for kitchen stuff, and they use another clay, white clay. Especially from this part, it is very famous. If you Google Cappadocia, you will find some pictures of this part. There is a small complex. There is another church over there on the second floor. There was a wooden ladder, it was broken, but our government didn't rebuild because tourists were falling down and injuring themselves. Juice sellers in Cappadocia, but we have no trees of them. Our farmers on the south coast of Turkey, in Antalya and Mersin cities, they farm and they send to Cappadocia to store. In Cappadocia, we have underground cave storage. Inside is naturally cool. That's why they sent to Cappadocia instead of keeping on the coast side, because there climate is always very hot. They have to pay a lot of money for electricity to keep cool. So we are very lucky. We have orange during the year, although we have no trees of them, because we have the storage. And we sent to all other cities from Cappadocia. For a short time. We are in Zelva Open Air Museum. There are 3 valleys. We will visit the shortest one. If you want, you can spend one whole day here. It's so big, so large. There are a lot of caves. There is a small old village in the deepness of the third valley. But no need. We will see the first valley. We will see 2 important stuff. Then we will go back. But we need to talk about Cappadocian Christianity as we have some time. Christianity was born in Palestine geography, but mostly grew up in central Turkey, especially in Cappadocia, ladies and gentlemen. Christian people came to Cappadocia in 2nd century. Actually, migration started at the end of 1st century, AD 1995. They started to come to Cappadocia as very, very little groups. But over the time, in 2nd century, mostly as larger groups, they came here using the way Lebanon, Syria, Kilikia, and they reached to central Turkey, to Cappadocia geography. Why they left their homeland? That is the question. At the beginning of Christianity, Palestine geography, even Anatolia geography here was completely Roman Empire land. And Christianity was not accepted, was not allowed at the beginning. There were a lot of Arab attacks and Roman Empire pressure to Christian people in Palestine geography. That's why they left their homeland and came here. Here is far away from Arabic geography. There had been Arab attacks starting from 7th century, but from 2nd to 7th century, there were not so many attacks. Here was safer than Kudus because here is far away from Arabic geography, and there was no located Roman Empire army in this geography. Army was close to capital, Constantinople, Istanbul. That's why here was safer. Of course, there were Roman Empire soldiers, but not too many. And Cappadocian Christians, when they came here first, they chose to stay in these kind of deep valleys because they found a lot of free cave shelters from earlier civilizations. It was easy for their accommodation. And also, it is easy to hide in these kind of places. When you look from far away, you can't understand that there is life here because there are no buildings. They were staying in the caves, ladies and gentlemen. It was easy for them. And they were doing their rituals secretly in countryside, in deep valleys or in their cave shelters like hermitage at the beginning of Cappadocian Christianity. But over the time, in 313 AD 313, Empire Constantius declared that Roman Empire would have tolerance to Christianity. Christian people had a little freedom. And they started to do their rituals as a little bit larger groups and in open air areas. In 380, Emperor Theodosius allowed Christianity completely in Roman Empire land, and Christian people started to build their temples, chapels, churches, cathedrals, after 5th century monastery areas, especially for their people's education. And you can see more than 900 chapel and churches in Cappadocia. For example, in Ferry Chimney region, Paşaba, we have seen a hermitage cell. A room was turned into a church over the time. When we were living, the 2 Turkish ladies were taking pictures on the right side. It was a chapel. For example, if you look over there, you can see a lot of caves. Some of them are always chapels. They were digging a proper small cave. They were putting there an altar stone, and it's a chapel for Christian people. There are around 900 chapel and churches in whole Cappadocia region, ladies and gentlemen. So here was the place for Christian people to develop their religion, ladies and gentlemen. And over the time, it's believed that the monastery education system was probably started in Cappadocia region. You know, monastery is an education system based on Christianity. By the way, we have the same system in Islam called madrasa, and they are quite similar. You know, Christianity was before Islam. That's why probably Muslim people copied something from Christian education system, from monastery. For example, boys and girls were not allowed to stay in the same dormitories, must be separated in both madrasa or monastery. They were staying there for a long time. That's why they had to cook for their own food. It's the same for madrasa and monastery. And they are having education depending on religion. In monastery, Christianity; in madrasa, Islam. What is the difference? In monastery education system, it was before Islam, you know. They were having education depending on religion only. But in madrasa, over the time, students started to have science education as well. Religion and science went together, ladies and gentlemen. That is the only difference. But mostly they are quite similar. So here is Zelva Open Air Museum. There was life in here till 1952 in the deepness of the valley. Our government asked people to move up to hill because there was rock fall risk. As I told you, we have hard winter conditions. In the winter, snow melting water goes down through the cracks. In the night it freezes. When it repeats it several times, stone will be broken easily. That's why it was not safe to live in here. Our government forced people to leave their village, gave a large piece of land and some budget to rebuild their village. Over the time, they moved up to hill to Aktepe village. We cannot see clearly, but we will pass around Aktepe village. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will go there and I will show you a simple fabric in which people produce bulgur. Do you know bulgur? Wheat, cotton wheat. Some people name as wheat rice. It looks like rice, but it's cotton wheat. We will see a simple place in which people made cotton wheat product. We will see a cave winery as well. Because there are a lot of wineries in Cappadocia. As I told you, wine has an economic importance in Cappadocian people's life. We will see the best sample of wineries. Then you will have some free time to click pictures and we will walk back to our van. Then we will drive to Imagination Valley, okay, Devrent Valley. You will see some rock formations there which look like something depending on your imagination. For example, one of them looks like a snail in my opinion, a swan in your opinion, or a camel in your opinion, the same stone. That's why we named that part Imagination Valley. I think we caught our breath, right? Let's keep walking. Winery, ladies and gentlemen. Our winter season is September. They used to pick the grapes in September and they take into caves and they close the door and the windows. By this way, inside will be really very cool. You can keep the grapes for a long time. When they want to make wine, they used to put all grapes into this part. It's like a pool and there is a hole here, ladies and gentlemen, as you see. Can you see? Yes. They used to put the grapes over there, and especially ladies used to step on the grapes to smash. They were pressing the grapes, and grape juice comes out through that hole, and they collect the grape juice in here. As you see, inside is white, because you need to cover the rock formation here and here as well by something like plaster or cement. Otherwise, rock formation can absorb all the juice. It's sponge-like, very soft, you know. That's why they were covering by cement or something like that. After collecting the juice here, they were putting in some special stuff with little holes for filtration. After filtering, they were putting their juice into clay, ceramic potteries, and keeping in storage of the winery and waiting for fermentation. After fermentation, they used to sell their wine to the traders. If you look on the ground, you will see circular holes in different sizes. They are for ceramic potteries, for the safety. When we are making wine, we need to put the juice into potteries, you know. If I put it on a flat place, if I touch gently, I can drop it easily. And I can break my pottery and I will lose my juice inside. That's why I have to be careful about my pottery. So they used to put their potteries in this kind of holes. As you see, they are in different sizes, of course, depending on the size of the potteries. As I told you, Christian people came here in 2nd century. After 9 centuries, in the 11th century, actually at the end of 11th century, Turks, my grandfathers came here. There was a war between Byzantine and Turks, Seljuk Empire. Seljuk Empire was the winner in 1071. After 1071, our Turkish groups started to come to this geography and we started to live together with Christian people. Then we shared some living areas. For example, this valley is a nice sample. They were living together here and they were using this kind of places together. They were sharing. Christian people were making wine in here And alcohol is forbidden in Islam, in my religion, you know. Turks were making grape molasses. Same process, but they don't put into clay potteries. They put in some big size containers to boil it. Let's go to this side. I will tell you the chimney. There was a conic shaped chimney here to transport the smoke easily because they used to set a very huge fire over there. They were taking their grape juice and putting into a large container. They were setting a fire and they were boiling the juice to make grape molasses, but it will not be enough to boil only. They need to put some special soil. We name it grape molasses soil in Turkey. It's a different white color soil. Only a little number of people know the source. They go there, pick some, and they sell to the farmers to make grape molasses. You need to put some soil from nature. It's completely different. Like fermentation, you can boil and mix the grape juice with the soil. After 4 or 5 hours boiling, you can have your grape molasses, but it makes a lot of foam. You need to take the foam away, and around 40% of the juice will become steam and fly away. From 100 liters of grape juice, you can have only 60 liters of grape molasses. That's why grape molasses is a little bit expensive, because you are losing 40% of your main source. And as you see, here is completely black because of the smoke. Smoke painted the rock formation. It absorbs. Rock formation is very soft. That's why it can absorb smoke, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, we are in an indoors area. Here was completely covered by the same rock formation, but front side was broken and clamped to the wall. Okay, let's go to the other. The church is over there, ladies and gentlemen. Just below that little window, there is a church. It is called Fish and Grape Church. It is from 8th century, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, the 8th century churches are very special because in 8th century, it was forbidden to paint human faces in church. Roman Empire Leon III had forbidden to draw human faces in temples because he saw that people were praying. People, could you please come a little bit closer to let the other group pass? People were praying mostly to saints instead of God. Roman Empire Leon III saw this situation and he was afraid of saints would replace God. That's why he had forbidden all human faces in temples. In 8th century, from 723 to 846, 123 years, it was forbidden to draw human faces in temples, and this was a very nice temple, but it's closed, that's why we will miss it.
Get it?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a simple factory, we can say, to make cotton wheat, bulgur. By the way, I'm 46 years old. I did this process in a traditional way like this in my childhood when I was 10, 12 or 14. So, first of all, to make bulgur, you need to boil the wheat. That's why there is a fireplace here, as you see. They were boiling the wheat at least 4 or 5 hours. Then you will take it away, filter the water and let the wheat dry. After getting dry, you will put all wheat into this circular pool they were putting inside. And normally, a wood should pass through this hole and it must be attached to this vertical trunk. And if you look over here, please, it's not stable, it's turnable. A wood pass through that hole which is attached to the vertical trunk, and people used to push and roll the stone over the wheat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a process to separate the transparent skin of the wheat from the inner seed. In Holy Bible, the holy book of the Christianity, you know, there is a part, it is written that you need to separate the chaff from the seed. Actually, it has a different meaning. You need to separate good and bad things, good and bad people. But this is the process. We are separating the chaff from the seed. You do this activity for 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on the amount of the wheat. Someone must mix the stuff. They were pushing by hand at the beginning, but in my childhood we were using horses to turn and roll the stone. It is easier. After 3, 4 hours, you take all stuff out and you need to wait for wind. Especially in the afternoon, it starts to blow in central Anatolia. You throw up all the stuff and skin is very light. It can fly. It will fly away and inner seed will fall down. Then you can use a small stone grinder. How do you call it? Chaki. And you can break the wheat into 3, max 5 pieces. Now your bulgur, your wheat, cotton wheat is ready. It's very easy to cook. By the way, I'm a good cook. You will put a little butter or oil. After 2 minutes, you will put some onion, pepper, tomato. You will cook for 5 minutes. Then you will add the bulgur. 5 more minutes cooking. You will cover by water. After 15 minutes cooking, your bulgur cotton wheat is ready, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, like couscous, exactly, like couscous. Yeah, some people call it couscous. Okay, this is a simple factory. Look at the top, the black part. What does it look like? Sorry? He says penguin. In my opinion, the top black part looks like a fish or mermaid.